Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's webinar with Deepblocks. My name is Michael Cabone. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Deepblocks. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us this week as we get to explore and learn a little bit more about multifamily site selection and doing it at scale. We're going to scan various markets in different cities for multifamily opportunities. Some of the hottest markets we're seeing is Tampa and Florida, Raleigh, North Carolina. If we have some time, we'll go into Austin, Texas. And if at any time you guys have any questions or want to learn a little bit about something I went over or look into some other areas, please feel free to use the chat to ask a question. You can also reach me at michael@deepblocks.com at the end of the webinar to schedule a demo, to do a one-on-one session, as well as learn more information. But before we get started, we'll give a little more time to let some more people join us. I'm going to actually share my screen, and we're going to jump on the website just to get a quick overview of all the different key sections of Deepblocks. You'll see here on our homepage, here's our city section. Right now we're in 43 cities with zoning data, as well as over 1,000 cities with parcel level data. Coming within a week, we're going to be adding another 57 cities. We'll be in 100 cities with zoning data throughout the country. We pretty much have the largest database of digitized zoning data. Again, as I mentioned, we also have parcel level data, 1,000+ cities. We bring market data, demographic data, construction costs. Everything's converged here into one interface to streamline this development ground up process of site selection, as well as optimizing that site, the best development play based on various uses. If it's multifamily, office, retail, industrial, or mixed use. Here at Deepblocks, you can go through thousands of parcels of land and relatively various different sites, select them based on your criteria, and then go optimize that particular site and try to produce the best return on cost and see if it makes sense to work with that particular parcel. So Deepblocks brings you two different interfaces where we have, again, our site selection on the front end, and the back end is our Explorer, our 3D financial analysis, 1 year back of the envelope return on cost, where you can enter assumptions, adjust the setbacks, and mold your model, 3D model, into, again, optimizing that particular site. Additionally, we have our webinar section, which we upload previous webinars in the past weeks that you can always watch to just learn more about other topics that we covered. We have our tutorials, which is a great resource of 60-second clips going through various functionalities of the software and highlighting key, again, functionalities to help you better understand how to use the software. Lastly, we have our pricing section. We're currently at $18,000, but we are going to be going up to $36,000 on December 1st as we expand into 100 cities with zoning. So if you want to get in now, it's a great time. You get in at the $18,000, you'll be grandfathered into that $18,000 for life. So again, this is a great time to get in, reach out, set up a call, and discuss further a subscription with Deepblocks. All right, so with that being said, we're gonna kind of give a couple more minutes and then jump into our webinar. Again, today just to recap, we're gonna review looking at multifamily site selection, kind of show you how the software and the power of the software where you can go through site selection at scale. And when I mean scale, not only within a certain city, that you can scan thousands and thousands of parcels and truly understand how to find the right site based on your criteria, but again, stretch across the country over these 100 cities that we are covering with zoning data. We do have a question. Great question. The question is zoning information coming from the county record? So we basically scrape the data from each municipality. So we have to go into every city that we work with and pull that data from their file. It's a little bit complicated depending on what municipality you work with. They all organize their data differently, but yes, it is coming from the municipality of that particular city. So that's how we provide that data. We focus in on the 10 most important components for development, and that's the zoning that we provide in our software. So with that being said, let's kind of get started. We're going to jump into scanning various markets for multifamily development. So the first city I'd like to kind of jump into is going to be Tampa, Florida. So we're going to, here you'll see on my screen, this is my dashboard. Here is all my projects are saved. We're going to jump into the search engine. We're going to enter Tampa. There it is, Tampa, Florida. And kind of going to give you a feel of how I like to go through and search for these various sites. And again, for this particular webinar, we are looking for multifamily type sites, possibly multifamily with retail if it makes more sense as we optimize that particular parcel. One of the first things I like to always do when I enter in a city is I like to minimize my various panels so we can get a good view of the entire screen that we're looking at in the viewport. And we're going to zoom out. Sorry about that. We're going to zoom out and get that bird's eye macro level view to really get a good understanding and grasp of the area that we are kind of looking to scan and figure out what part of the city has the most pockets of interest and high density, kind of get an idea of where the growth is occurring in the city. So one of the most impactful layers that we provide is a buildable area ratio. This layer, as you'll notice, will turn on and kind of get an idea based on the various color sets, where we're seeing pockets of density or pockets of interest, and where the building density is occurring based on zoning data. So as we kind of scan through, the orange kind of gives you an idea of some solid development and some solid trending, but the deep red is where you're really seeing the most growth and the most potential. So I'm going to kind of focus in on this deep red as I continue my search for multifamily sites. And the next step I'd like to take after kind of finding that pocket of interest, and turn this layer off and kind of turn on my people layer and kind of just get an understanding of the demographics. So we have employment, median income, median rent, and population. Median income is obviously a very crucial one. This particular example, again, I'm looking for multifamily on a higher end play. So as I mentioned, this particular area where I saw that pocket of interest into development density, this median income is at 85,000. So that's a nice little, that's a good median income based on our current example. So we're going to continue scrolling a little bit more and kind of review some more other information. It's kind of get an idea of the population in this particular area. We're at almost 4,000. And as we really hone in on, as we find and look at different parcels and start selecting parcels, we're going to kind of jump into demographic trends so you can see the different trends that are occurring in a particular census tract. So I continue to zoom in a bit more until our parcels begin to appear. Now, as our parcels appear, we can start and use our market scanner and enter in their specific criteria to start finding sites based on what we're trying to develop. And just keep in mind, I am using Google Chrome. I like to zoom out at 80% to count. Again, the more parcels you can capture within a viewport, the more parcels you can scan and truly get an idea of and find that next opportunity. So just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, in my particular viewport, we have about 1,100 parcels. I'm going to move over a little more so you can get some more parcels appearing. And you'll see about 2,200 parcels currently appearing. All right, so now we're going to start narrowing down from those 2,200. We're going to be looking for multifamily dwelling. I believe there's also multifamily. Okay, so really a multifamily dwelling, that's how they word it in the city of Tampa. And you'll see that we are down to 116 parcels. So quickly we go from 2,200 to 116 parcels. The next thing I'm going to kind of look for is I'm looking for vacant land. So I'm going to put in zeros into these data points, and then I'll see what kind of results we get. So now we have just 2 parcels matching, again, zone for multifamily and on vacant land. So let's kind of see where those parcels are existing. Okay, here's the first example. So this is our one site. This is 2801 Bayshore Boulevard. Now I'm going to kind of scroll in and really get a little bit of more of a micro view, level view, see what's going on in this particular census tract. So what we have is our demographic trends, and you can now kind of look at these different trends based on population, employment, rent, and income as well. So the way this works is you put your mouse over the box, and you'll see that we're in 61.03. I'm going to turn off the other census tract. kind of study the 6103, and you see a nice incline of population. So that's a nice thing to take in. Again, we're going to focus in on the 6103. We're going to look at this is now employment is a little bit down, kind of flattened out the last couple of years. And median gross rent as well. Let's see, a strong incline, so what the rent that we can be charging for these particular multifamily units. And lastly, the household income, which you can start to see is on a nice incline, especially against the United States average. So the 3 out of 4 trends looking pretty good for this particular parcel. Some other things, again, you can always turn on as well. We have retail rates, basically shows you dollar per square foot that you can. This is a baseline number based on an aggregate of listing data that we provide, and we kind of apply our machine learning to that aggregate and bring to you a very relatively current market value dollar again per square foot. It's within a few percentage points, and we validate these numbers routinely and to make sure we're seeing the right market numbers that we provide. You can also look at and get an idea of the traffic count and traffic flow. Again, any information that appears in the map layers, you can see the map legend and kind of get an understanding of what each color represents. So we got a decently high traffic area in this around here. So again, this could be a good mixed use play where we do multifamily with a little bit of retail, if that makes sense. And again, another thing we can also look at is local business. So you'll see by turning this on, we can get an idea of any local business in the area. So not as much in terms of retail at the moment, but again, maybe a good opportunity if the zoning allows it. So that being said, here's one particular site. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you, I already kind of built out in my project for this particular parcel. So I'll share it with you, and then we can kind of get an idea of what I felt is the most optimal play for this particular parcel. Again, it's 2801 Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa, Florida. And you'll notice I kind of going through, and this is our second and our backend interface, as we call it. It's the Explorer. It's where you do the 3D modeling and massing, and you kind of enter in all your assumptions. You get a 1 year back of the envelope return on cost. So the real flexible part about the software is you can start creating different projects, various iterations, and truly, again, optimize this parcel to the best of your ability and see if this is a sensible play and parcel and a site to develop. So after going through some iterations, I did multifamily at first, I did multifamily with office, and lastly, I finished a multifamily retail. Now, if you notice, we carry through the property info as I was showing in the previous interface as well, and previous screen, and you'll kind of get an idea of its vacant land. It's only 10 units are only allowed. So this is probably going to be a little more of a subdivided in a sense of like a town. You can maybe build different condo units here for rent or even for possibly for sale. We got a building height of 60 feet. And then you'll see the unit density. We got our parking by use. So I pumped in about 1.5 spaces for the 2 bedrooms. That's what I'm assuming. These are going to be 2 bedrooms. Maybe we can make them 3. As well, you can actually, I don't see retail as one of the use, but you can do a daycare and nursery facility. So maybe that could be potential space for a daycare facility, and we can make use of it in that regard. Now you'll notice I kind of entered in various assumptions. We did our 10 units for that's allowed. I adjusted gross buildable, adjusted our amenities, but they also adjusted the multifamily income we provide and repopulated with some market values. But I actually bumped it up a bit because I felt we could get a little bit more money for this particular site. Again, so then you kind of can go through the retail side of it, adjust these assumptions, and again, the whole goal is to work on getting this ROC to a legitimate point, and upon completing that project, you can then export this out to a PDF file, nice little 4-pager. So is anything we adjust and play with on these assumption sides, everything will automatically update on our return analysis. And again, you can export out to a PDF report. So that's just one particular project I did create. Again, I want to kind of focus in on other sites though. So I don't want to just I want to kind of show and go through the various sites based on my criteria and see if there's another particular parcel that might make sense based on what we're trying to develop. So we're going to go back and I'm going to zoom back in. So you'll notice my criteria will automatically be activated once the screen appears. So you'll see we have existing building on. I'm going to put back in multifamily. So you'll notice the reason there's just various list or options. This is again based on municipalities. They kind of word each use a little bit differently, so you can select all of them. That way you're covering your bases. But again, so we have right now 77 parcels matching roughly. Again, we're at almost 3,000 in the viewport. I kind of want to stick again around that one area I mentioned where the income was a certain that certain number. If we need to refresh our memories, you just go back to the demographic or people layer, turn that median income on, and we'll notice that we're trying to stay in that 85,000 range and even up higher. And I believe this is 100, so we have 90,000 there. I believe this one's over 100,000. Yes, so this is a very good area to kind of look for some sites based on what we're trying to create here. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to zoom back in more and kind of continue to look for more potential sites to build on. So again, I'm looking for that multifamily, and again, I believe I have in looking for vacant land. So I continue to search. I'll zoom out a little bit, see if I can find. I know there's another parcel. Let's see where we're looking here. There we go. All right. So here's another one that came of some interest to me as I was kind of going through this. So I believe this is 2801. I'm sorry, 2109 Bayshore Boulevard. So here's another parcel. Again, let's kind of zoom in and get that micro level view. We'll go over these demographic trends and kind of get an understanding of what's going on. This is in 6101 census tract. So turn these off. Again, population, a nice incline. We're seeing employment per population relatively flat against the United States average. Looks like gross rent is on the rise in this particular census tract. And lastly, household income, even before turning these other tracks off, you can see it's a very strong incline in income. So again, this could be a nice potential site to develop on. And as I mentioned, I already kind of went through the various scenarios to do to optimize this particular project, and I'll kind of share that project with you at this moment. As I mentioned, it was 2109 bottom. Again, I started out. Actually, this might just be this is actually just multifamily and no retail. We're gonna zoom in a bit. But again, the luxury of the software is your ability to kind of play with it. You'll notice I have setbacks entered in. I kind of adjusted setbacks from the third floor and up, so we have a little bit of some style to the building, the way I'm setting it up. So almost making the garage kind of a plinth to where you can build upon. Plinth. And lastly, so you can kind of just go around and adjust and enter in the various assumptions. Again, to work on this ROC, adjust those. You can enter in your parking, which I put at 1.5. We can enter in, and we put in 24 2-bedrooms. Adjusted the rent, again, I have it about 3,000, and you can adjust your costs as well and just kind of figure out what makes the most sense for this particular site. So again, within a matter of minutes, we went through 2 sites in Tampa based on multifamily use and selected these 2 sites and created some projects on them, and just to start to analyze and assess what makes what works for what we're trying to accomplish. So as I mentioned, I want to go through various markets today. I don't want to hone in too much on the 3D model. I want to kind of show you the power of the site selection, and again, at scale. So another very strong market we're seeing for multifamily is in Raleigh, North Carolina. So again, same concept. We're just going to go back to our search. We're going to type in Raleigh. And again, I like to go through the same exact steps as I just went through previously in Tampa. I like to first get that bird's eye view, that macro level view, and zoom out. We're going to minimize these panels. So again, we can see more of the map that we're looking at. And like I mentioned, one of the strongest layers of information kind of giving us an idea of what's going on in a particular city is that buildable area ratio. Again, it just helps us understand development density. And it's a great measure of where a market is trending for growth in, again, high density areas. So You'll see there's some dark red right here, a little bit of dark orange. So this seems like a good solid start to look at to begin our search. I'll start to zoom back in. Again, let's turn on, let's go to that people layer, get an idea of what kind of median income we're looking at 85,000. So again, that's a solid number based on the particular projects we're building for multifamily. And continue to move in some more. Again, just some other layers just to throw on. We also have our opportunity zones. This unfortunately is not going to be within an opportunity zone. We also show unit density to get an idea of maximum units allowed for a particular project. We can turn on existing buildings, which in a 3D format, you'll see everything that resides in that particular area. So from there, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to continue to scroll in until our parcels appear, which will be the blue outlines. And my goal is to try to zoom out, stay rough. I like to try to stay at a certain level out in terms of zooming where I can get as many parcels in my screen as possible. So if you kind of zoom out a little too much and the parcels disappear, you got to obviously zoom back in to regain the access to the market scanners. So right now, we're going to go to our market scanner. And again, we're going to pump in our particular criteria just to give you, again, an idea of how many parcels we're looking at. We're at about 2,700 in my particular screen. And again, so we're going to start with looking for multi-unit. So in Raleigh, they call it multi-unit living. Now we're down to 2,500. And again, I'm going to look for some vacant land to see if we can. All right, so down to 355 parcels matching. I'm going to continue to zoom in a bit more and really hone in on this particular area. Turn on our demographic trends and get an idea of some of the different parcels that do reside in here. Let's see if we can also turn on lot size, we got buildable area. Okay, so I really want to study now these trends of these particular areas. So let's see what we got going on in 510, 503. All right, we only got 501. Good sized parcel right here. We can do a lot of development on it. We have strong incline in population, strong incline in employment, strong incline in rent, as well as strong incline in income. So this could be a very solid site to select, and again, go through the evaluation process and start going into the preliminary underwriting. Again, as I mentioned, on this screen as well as the other interface, we provide property info to give you a nice breakdown, as well as the zoning information that is offered from the municipality for this particular area. You get parking by use, you'll see your uses allowed, your specific uses based on those general uses, and lastly, your setbacks that you are required to have based on zoning. Again, as I mentioned, I built out a project on this particular site earlier just to kind of give you an idea of what is an optimal play for this particular parcel in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you'll notice I did a multifamily with some retail and roughly a 5.71 return on cost. Zoom in a little bit. And just to give you a little feel, you'll see this pale green around. I put some setbacks in based on the requirements. You'll notice it says for mixed-use building, it's 3 feet in the front, 3 in the secondary, and then I believe it's 6 and 6 for side and rear. As you may as well know, we have a setback mode, which I'll jump into real quickly to show you how we can uniquely identify each side. So you'll notice I put A for the front, here's the rear, and B and C for primary, for secondary, and then the other. Just another cool little note is that we have these measurement tools where you actually can draw a floor plan of sorts within each floor plate on every single floor and get an idea of what might go into these floors and get an idea of square footage per apartment that might make the most sense. So there's just some useful tools just to get, again, a really good understanding of what the potential is of a certain place. So we're going to exit that setback mode. And as I mentioned, you can go into each different use and update the assumptions on both ends from the income side as well as the cost side, and again, work on to generate a higher ROC or to see what it might take to get that ROC up. So that being said, let's go back again. Let's do another search in Raleigh and kind of see if there's any other possible plays that make sense. And again, what I like to always advise that as you create these various projects and go through these different iterations, you can, again, as I mentioned, export to a PDF file, 4-page report, and then you can start comparing these different projects with your colleagues and your investors or whoever maybe you're working with, just to kind of show them, like, oh, here's this particular site, and here's the optimal development play, and then here's another one that we also found. So now this is actually an interesting opportunity right here. So with Deepblocks, you can do assemblages. And this is a relatively big city block in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we can actually evaluate this entire city block. I'm going to actually just select even this corner, and we can go through, and you'll notice the way that our software works, it automatically tabulates and accumulates the various property information. So all the addresses, you'll get total lot size, total existing building data. There's probably a little bit of an existing building on this corner because everything else was vacant. You'll see number of total 12 stories. It just kind of gives you some good key information, and again, computes it all for you so you can work on developing and optimizing this particular site. So again, there's some flexibility as we bring this assemblage to life and try to see if this assemblage makes sense and could be a good development play. So again, we'll notice some of the key demographic trends looking pretty strong. I believe the same census tract as the other parcel we were just looking at. But just to share with you the project I created for this assemblage, you'll notice is a relatively large. Let's see, the address is 127 here. All right, so you'll notice this is the assemblage that I had just selected on all those parcels, and here is a multifamily with some retail, a relatively low ROC, so at the moment not very beneficial. However, again, you can go in, maybe we got to make this retail a little larger and get some more value out of the retail. Again, so just to show you quickly, you can always put in larger values to expand the amount that you want to make available for net leasable. You'll see as we continue, so maybe you want to do a relatively low, significant amount of retail space on the bottom floor. And we can really, again, pump in specific numbers and try to work this number up. Again, we can work on that leasing income, maybe get $95 per square foot. You go to the multifamily side and start working on this a bit. Right now I have 785 units. I believe we got to watch the building height at 150, so it's 134 feet, so we can go up to 150 feet. We can put in more units maybe, and just continue to work on entering different assumptions to make this a more valuable project, development site, and potential site to build on. We can maybe up the rent to $27.50. Again, so this is just an example of different ways to work on it. Obviously, you want to put in values that are within reason. We always provide you the sub-market values and based on zoning, what we're seeing in the particular area. But again, we always leave everything adjustable as our users need that flexibility to assess it based on their needs and what their development play might be. So again, just kind of going through everything. I didn't kind of running out of time here. I wanted to kind of jump into Austin, which we can do at another webinar. But again, just kind of a quick recap. Deepblocks' ability for site selection at scale is extremely powerful. I mean, you can go through all the different cities. We're going to be in 100 cities coming next week or into the beginning of November with zoning data. So that'll give you the ability to search by certain uses, search by different unit density. I mean, there's just so many various data points that we have within our zoning information to allow you to really expand your search, go through your search in a very quick amount of time from, again, something that used to take weeks, sometimes months, you can do now in minutes at your desk, at your computer. Evaluate that parcel, select that parcel, then you can kind of go into that 3D modeling Explorer interface and try to optimize that site based on your development play to improve that ROC. And again, a high level assessment to say, does this make sense? Does this site work for us? And again, looking for those off-market deals that are hard to come by. You can easily use Deepblocks to find those opportunities, to find those sites. Instead of waiting for something to come to you, you can be proactive and go through, again, various different cities and really search at scale. So I do appreciate you taking the time to join me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, michael@deepblocks.com, and look forward to talking to you again. Take care.